It is the decisive arm of the modern battlefield. The great Field Marshal Alan Brooke, the top British general of the war, would later write that it is with artillery that we will win this war. And in the Second World War, no army on earth believed in the power of artillery more fervently than the United States Army. American artillery was the great equalizer, the weapon that could break any defensive line and shatter any enemy attack. But a big gun is just a heavy piece of steel if you can't get it to the battle. In the early days of the war, moving these behemoths was a slow, agonizing process. It was a logistical nightmare that tied the most powerful weapons on the field to the speed of a walking man. Even the German army, for all its blitzkrieg prowess, still relied on over 1 million horses to move the majority of its artillery. But America had a different solution. It was not a tank. It was not a truck. It was a purpose-built beast of burden, a high-speed, fully tracked tractor designed for one job, to give the artillery corps the mobility of a Panzer division. This is the story of the M4 high-speed tractor, the unsung, unglamorous, and utterly indispensable hero that gave American artillery the power to dominate every battlefield of the war. To understand the genius of the M4, you have to look at the problem it solved. For centuries, heavy artillery was fundamentally a static weapon. You dragged it to the front with slow teams of horses, painstakingly set it up, and left it there for days. In modern warfare, this immobility was a death sentence. A stationary gun battery was a sitting duck for enemy aircraft and counter-battery fire. Plus, in a war defined by rapid movement, by the time the big guns were ready to shoot, the battle had often moved 5 miles down the road. The U.S. Army knew that if they wanted to mechanize warfare, they needed a vehicle that could take their biggest guns anywhere a tank could go. The solution came from the Allis-Chalmers Company, and it was a masterpiece of the arsenal of democracy. They didn't reinvent the wheel, they just repurposed the best parts they already had. Engineers built the M4 on the chassis of the M3 Stuart light tank. This was a stroke of genius. It used the same rugged vertical volute spring suspension and tracks that were already in mass production. However, they made a critical adjustment. They took the massive 210 horsepower Waukesha engine and flipped the script, placing it in the center of the vehicle, under the floorboards. This gave the tractor a unique weight distribution, ensuring the front end wouldn't lift off the ground even when towing the heaviest loads. Because it shared so many parts with the Stuart tank, repairing it in the field was a dream for mechanics.
Weighing in at over 14 tons, the M4 wasn't just a tow truck, it was a mobile base of operations. The designers thought of everything the artillery crew needed. The forward compartment was large enough to carry the entire 11-man gun crew, protecting them from weather and shrapnel. The rear housed a massive ammunition chest capable of hauling the heavy shells needed for the fight. And up top, it sported a ring-mounted 50-caliber Browning machine gun, because even a tractor needs teeth. When an M4 arrived at the front, you had the gun, the bullets, and the boys all in one package, ready to fire immediately. And with a top speed of 35 miles per hour, it could easily keep pace with the armored columns. The M4 was built to haul the heavy hitters. It pulled the 90mm anti-aircraft guns and the 8-inch howitzers, but its true partner in crime was the 155mm Long Tom. The Long Tom was the premier American field gun, capable of hurling a 95-pound shell over 14 miles with pinpoint accuracy. The M4 changed the rules of engagement for these guns. It enabled a tactic known as shoot and scoot. A battery could race forward, unleash a devastating barrage, and before the Germans could calculate where the shots came from, hitch up and disappear to a new location. From the muddy mountains of Italy to the race across France, the M4 ensured that Patton's tanks never outran their fire support. It was so effective that under the Lend-Lease program we sent hundreds to the British and Free French armies, mechanizing their heavy units for the first time. The design was so overbuilt and reliable that its story didn't end with World War II. For decades after the war, surplus M4s were used globally as logging tractors, construction equipment, and artillery haulers. Some armies, like the Japanese and Dutch, kept them in service as late as the 1970s, a 30-year career for a vehicle designed in a hurry during the heat of war. The M4 high-speed tractor was not a glamorous weapon. It has been largely forgotten by history, overshadowed by the Sherman tanks it drove alongside. It was a true, humble, brutish, and utterly utilitarian machine. But it was a true force multiplier. It was the linchpin of American artillery dominance, proving that victory isn't just about having the biggest gun, it's about getting that gun to the fight. What do you think is the most underrated support vehicle of World War II? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the hardware that won the war, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.